Actually, my friend and I were really close. One day, I needed a large amount of money. I asked my friend for it, but he refused. In that moment of anger, I killed him and took his money.
The prisoner speaking in the video is Tyler Brooks. Why is this 19-year-old in prison? No one could have imagined he would kill his closest friend for money. So how did things come to this? I'll tell you all about it. If you're ready, let's begin. Tyler Brooks was born in 2000 in Aurora, Colorado, to a single mother struggling with addiction and financial instability. His father, Marcus Brooks, had abandoned the family when Tyler was 3 years old, leaving behind only unpaid bills and broken promises. Tyler's mother, Jennifer Brooks, worked multiple minimum wage jobs while battling prescription drug addiction that would define much of Tyler's childhood. Growing up in subsidized housing on the outskirts of Denver, Tyler learned early that money solved most problems and that not having it created endless suffering. He watched his mother choose between groceries and rent, between medication and utilities, between stability and survival. These experiences taught Tyler that financial security represented freedom, while poverty meant constant shame. From elementary school onward, Tyler displayed the combination of intelligence and opportunism that would eventually lead to murder. Teachers noted his quick grasp of concepts and ability to charm adults, but they also observed his tendency to cut corners, avoid difficult work, and seek shortcuts to success. He was a student who would copy homework rather than struggle through assignments. Tyler's relationship with Jake Morrison began in 7th grade when they were assigned as lab partners. Jake represented everything Tyler wished he could have: a stable 2-parent household, financial security, opportunities for college, and the confidence that comes from never worrying about basic needs. Their friendship was genuine, but it was built on Tyler's fascination with Jake's lifestyle and resources. The Morrison family welcomed Tyler into their home with typical upper-middle-class generosity. Jake's parents, David and Susan Morrison, saw Tyler as a positive influence on their sometimes lazy son, not recognizing that Tyler viewed their comfortable lifestyle with a mixture of admiration and envy that would eventually turn deadly. During high school, the economic gap between Tyler and Jake became more pronounced and psychologically difficult for Tyler to manage. While Jake received a new car for his 16th birthday, Tyler worked part-time jobs to help his mother pay rent. While Jake planned expensive summer vacations, Tyler worried about basic school supplies and whether his family would be evicted again. Tyler's response to these disparities was to develop elaborate fantasy scenarios where he could achieve Jake's level of wealth quickly rather than through years of education and hard work. He became obsessed with get-rich-quick schemes, gambling, and investment strategies that promised massive returns with minimal effort. These fantasies became increasingly detailed and unrealistic as Tyler's desperation intensified. The psychological foundation that made Tyler capable of murder was his fundamental belief that financial success justified almost any means necessary to achieve it. He had internalized a message that poverty was a moral failing and that wealthy people deserved their advantages. This worldview made Jake's inheritance seem like something Tyler could legitimately claim. By 2018, Tyler's senior year, the contrast between his prospects and Jake's future had become unbearable. Jake had been accepted to Colorado State University with family financial support, while Tyler faced crushing student loan debt or abandoning his educational aspirations. The realization that their friendship would likely end as they moved into different social classes created anxiety Tyler couldn't manage. The specific catalyst for murder came in early 2019 when Tyler learned about Jake's inheritance from his deceased grandfather, approximately $100,000. For Tyler, this money represented a life-changing opportunity that could solve his family's problems, pay for his education, and allow him to achieve the middle-class lifestyle he desperately wanted. Tyler's plan developed gradually over several months, beginning with casual questions about Jake's financial plans and evolving into detailed research about accessing the money. Initially, Tyler considered nonviolent methods like identity theft, but he eventually concluded that Jake's murder was the only way to ensure his safety and success. Before continuing, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Tyler Brooks' transformation from opportunistic teenager to cold-blooded killer began in earnest during the spring of 2019, when casual conversations about post-graduation plans revealed the full scope of Jake Morrison's financial advantages and triggered Tyler's decision to claim those advantages for himself through murder. The psychological shift from fantasy to planning occurred gradually, with each step appearing logical and justified within Tyler's increasingly distorted understanding of fairness and survival. The catalyst for Tyler's murderous planning was Jake's casual mention during a March 2019 lunch conversation that his grandfather's estate had been settled and that he would receive approximately $100,000 when he turned 21 in November. For most teenagers, this would represent exciting news about a friend's good fortune, but for Tyler, it represented a solution to every problem that had dominated his life since childhood. Tyler's initial response to learning about the inheritance was to probe Jake for additional details about the money's accessibility, legal requirements for receiving it, and Jake's plans for using funds. Jake, trusting and unsuspecting, answered these questions freely, explaining that the money was held in a trust managed by his parents' financial advisor and that he planned to use it for college expenses, a new car, and possibly a house down payment after graduation. During the weeks following this conversation, Tyler began researching inheritance law, trust fund management, and financial fraud techniques through internet searches conducted on school computers and his mother's laptop. His investigation revealed that accessing Jake's inheritance through identity theft or forgery would be extremely difficult due to the multiple verification procedures required by banks and legal institutions. Tyler's evolving plan began to focus on scenarios where Jake's death would create opportunities for Tyler to claim the inheritance through impersonation or by positioning himself as Jake's closest friend and designated heir. These fantasies initially involved accidents or medical emergencies that would appear natural, but Tyler gradually recognized that such scenarios would be difficult to arrange and would still leave him with limited access to Jake's financial accounts. The psychological process that led Tyler to consider murder involved a gradual erosion of moral boundaries, combined with increasingly elaborate justifications for taking Jake's life and money. Tyler convinced himself that Jake didn't truly appreciate or deserve his family's wealth, that the inheritance represented an opportunity that Tyler would use more effectively, and that one person's death was a reasonable price for solving the financial problems that affected Tyler's entire family. By April 2019, Tyler had begun developing specific plans for killing Jake in a way that would allow him to access the inheritance while avoiding detection by law enforcement. His research expanded to include information about murder methods, body disposal techniques, and strategies for creating alibis and misdirecting police investigations. These searches were conducted carefully to avoid leaving digital traces. Tyler's planning became more detailed and urgent as graduation approached and the reality of their diverging post-secondary paths became clear. Jake would attend Colorado State University with full family financial support, while Tyler faced a choice between accumulating massive student loan debt or abandoning his educational aspirations. The contrast between their opportunities reinforced Tyler's belief that redistributing Jake's wealth was both necessary and morally justified. The murder plan that Tyler ultimately developed involved inviting Jake on a camping trip to a remote location where Tyler could kill him without witnesses and dispose of the body in a way that would prevent discovery. Tyler chose Rocky Mountain National Park for the location, selecting a backcountry area that he had researched through online hiking forums and satellite imagery to ensure privacy and difficult access for search teams. Tyler's preparation for the camping trip murder included purchasing equipment that could be used as weapons without arousing suspicion, researching body disposal methods that would prevent identification, and developing a cover story that would explain Jake's disappearance without implicating Tyler. He also began gathering information about Jake's financial accounts, social media passwords, and personal identification that would be necessary for accessing the inheritance. Throughout this planning period, Tyler maintained his normal friendship with Jake, while internally viewing him as an obstacle to be eliminated rather than a person with intrinsic worth and rights. This psychological disconnection allowed Tyler to continue enjoying Jake's company and generosity while simultaneously preparing to murder him, demonstrating a level of emotional detachment that would prove crucial during the actual killing. Tyler's behavior during the spring of 2019 showed subtle changes that might have been warning signs to more observant friends or family members. He became increasingly focused on financial topics, asked unusual questions about Jake's family and personal habits, and showed heightened interest in outdoor activities and camping equipment. However, these changes were easily explained by normal graduation stress and college preparation activities. The final phase of Tyler's planning involves selecting a specific date for the murder and developing contingency plans for various scenarios that might complicate his scheme. He chose the last week in July 2019 for the camping trip, reasoning that the summer timing would provide better weather conditions and that the approaching start of college would create urgency that would encourage Jake to agree to the trip. Tyler's invitation to Jake for the camping trip was carefully crafted to emphasize their friendship and the approaching end of their regular contact due to college. Tyler presented the trip as a final adventure before their lives diverged, appealing to Jake's nostalgia and loyalty while providing a plausible explanation for choosing a remote location. Jake's enthusiastic acceptance of the invitation confirmed Tyler's assessment that his friend remained completely unaware of the danger. During the weeks leading up to the camping trip, Tyler finalized his preparations by acquiring the necessary equipment, establishing his cover story, and mentally rehearsing the sequence of actions he would take during and after the murder. His planning was meticulous and comprehensive, reflecting both his intelligence and the months of preparation that had gone into developing the scheme. Friday, July 26, 2019. The weekend that would transform Tyler Brooks from a financially desperate teenager into a cold-blooded killer began with what Jake Morrison believed was a farewell camping trip to celebrate their friendship before college separated them permanently. Instead of the nostalgic adventure Jake anticipated, Tyler had planned a systematic murder that would end his best friend's life and provide him access to $100,000 in inheritance money. Tyler's preparation for camping trip was meticulous and deceptive, designed to ensure privacy for the murder while maintaining the appearance of a normal outdoor adventure. He had selected a backcountry camping area in Rocky Mountain National Park that required a challenging hike to reach, ensuring that they would be isolated from other campers and that Jake's body could be concealed effectively after the killing. The equipment Tyler packed included standard camping gear that would support his cover story, along with specific items intended for the murder and body disposal: a hunting knife purchased with cash at a sporting goods store, rope and plastic sheeting for restraining and wrapping the victim, and a small shovel that he claimed was necessary for building a proper campfire pit. Jake's enthusiasm for the camping trip and his complete trust in Tyler made the deception psychologically easier for Tyler to maintain during their preparations and departure. Jake viewed the weekend as a meaningful conclusion to their high school friendship, never suspecting that Tyler saw him as nothing more than an obstacle to financial security that needed to be eliminated. The drive to Rocky Mountain National Park took approximately 3 hours, during which Tyler maintained normal conversation while internally reviewing his murder plan and watching for opportunities to begin the psychological manipulation that would make Jake more vulnerable when the killing began. Tyler's ability to compartmentalize his emotions during this period demonstrated the psychological detachment that had developed during his months of planning. Upon arriving at the trailhead Friday afternoon, Tyler and Jake began the 4-mile hike to their chosen camping location, a remote meadow near a stream that Tyler had selected through online research and satellite imagery. The hike provided Tyler with additional opportunities to assess the terrain and confirmed that his chosen location would provide the privacy and concealment necessary for murder and body disposal. Tyler's plan required waiting until Saturday evening to commit the murder, allowing Friday and Saturday to pass normally while ensuring that Jake would be relaxed and unsuspecting when the attack began. This timeline also provided Tyler with opportunities to observe Jake's behavior and adjust his plans if necessary to ensure success and avoid detection. Friday evening and Saturday proceeded according to Tyler's expectations, with normal camping activities, including hiking, fishing, and conversation around the campfire. Jake's obvious enjoyment of the trip and his expressions of gratitude for Tyler's friendship created psychological pressure that Tyler managed by focusing on his financial motivations and a conviction that Jake's death was necessary for his own survival. Saturday evening, July 27th, Tyler began implementing his murder plan after Jake had consumed several beers that Tyler had brought specifically to reduce his friend's awareness and reaction time. Tyler suggested a night hike to a scenic overlook that he claimed offered excellent star viewing, providing a pretext for moving Jake away from their campsite to a location where the killing would be less likely to leave evidence. The overlook Tyler had selected was approximately half a mile from their campsite, accessible by a narrow trail that Tyler had scouted during their Friday arrival. The location provided the privacy necessary for murder, while offering terrain features that would facilitate body disposal and concealment. Jake's willing participation in the night hike demonstrated his continued trust in Tyler and a complete lack of awareness about the danger he faced. Tyler's attack began when they reached the overlook, and Jake was distracted by the view and the clear night sky. Tyler approached from behind with a hunting knife and attempted to kill Jake quickly by cutting his throat, but Jake's reflexive movements caused the initial wound to be less fatal than Tyler had planned. Jake's ability to scream and fight back forced Tyler to modify his approach and pursue a more violent and prolonged killing. The struggle between Tyler and Jake lasted approximately 10 minutes, during which Jake attempted to escape, while Tyler pursued him with a knife and eventually managed to inflict multiple fatal wounds. Jake's final words, according to Tyler's later confession, were pleas for his life and expressions of confusion about why his best friend was trying to kill him. Tyler's response was to continue the attack until Jake could no longer resist or call for help. After confirming that Jake was dead, Tyler began the process of concealing the body and eliminating evidence of the struggle. He dragged Jake's body into a ravine below the overlook and spent several hours covering it with rocks and debris to prevent discovery by wildlife or other hikers. Tyler also collected blood evidence from the overlook and attempted to clean the area to avoid detection. Tyler's plan for the aftermath included returning to the campsite alone, packing both his and Jake's belongings, and hiking out early Sunday morning with a story about Jake deciding to leave early due to feeling sick. This cover story would explain Jake's absence while providing Tyler with access to Jake's personal belongings, including his wallet, identification, and mobile phone. The hike out of the park Sunday morning proceeded according to Tyler's plan, with no encounters with park rangers or other hikers who might later provide conflicting testimony about Jake's presence or absence. Tyler drove Jake's car back to Denver, using the opportunity to familiarize himself with Jake's personal information and to begin developing his strategy for accessing the inheritance money. Tyler's immediate actions after returning to Denver focused on creating the impression that Jake had simply left town unexpectedly rather than disappeared under suspicious circumstances. Tyler sent text messages from Jake's phone to Jake's parents and other friends, claiming that Jake had decided to take an extended trip before college and would be out of contact for several weeks. Tyler's attempt to access Jake's financial accounts began within days of the murder, using personal information gathered from Jake's wallet and phone to attempt online banking access, and to research the procedures for claiming inheritance benefits. However, Tyler quickly discovered that the security measures protecting Jake's accounts were more sophisticated than his research had indicated. The crucial mistake that would eventually lead to Tyler's arrest was his continued use of Jake's mobile phone to maintain the fiction that Jake was alive and traveling. Tyler's belief that he could successfully impersonate Jake through text messages demonstrated both his overconfidence in his deceptive abilities and his underestimation of digital forensic techniques that would later trace the phone's location. Jake's parents reported him missing on August 5, 2019, when his failure to check in became inconsistent with his normal communication patterns. The missing person investigation quickly focused on Tyler as the last person known to have spent time with Jake, beginning a sequence of police interviews and digital investigations that would uncover the truth about Jake's fate. Before continuing, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Tyler Brooks's trial became one of Colorado's most closely watched cases involving teenage murder for financial gain, highlighting the intersection of economic desperation and youth violence in modern criminal investigations. The legal system faced the challenge of prosecuting a 19-year-old who had killed his best friend in cold blood while considering the social factors that had driven him to such desperate measures. Jefferson County District Attorney Maria Santos moved aggressively to charge Tyler with first-degree murder, emphasizing the premeditated nature of his planning and calculated deception. Tyler Brooks spent months planning this murder, Santos stated. This was not a crime of passion. This was a systematic plan to kill his best friend for money. Tyler's defense attorney, public defender James Chun, faced a difficult task of defending a client whose digital footprint provided overwhelming evidence of premeditation while attempting to generate sympathy for his disadvantaged background. During their first meeting, Tyler maintained innocence despite mounting evidence, telling Chun, Jake was my best friend. I would never hurt him. Public reaction was swift and largely unsympathetic, with many viewing Tyler's actions as a particularly cold-blooded betrayal of friendship. Social media commentary focused on the calculated nature of the planning and how Tyler maintained normal interactions with Jake while secretly preparing to murder him. The case became a symbol of how economic inequality could corrupt young people's moral judgment. The trial began on March 15th, 2020, just as COVID-19 restrictions were beginning to affect court operations. Jury selection took 2 weeks, with many potential jurors expressing strong opinions about the case and concern about Tyler's apparent lack of remorse during his arrest and initial court appearances. Prosecutor Santos' opening statement portrayed Tyler as a manipulative sociopath who had exploited Jake's friendship to gain access to inheritance money. The defendant befriended Jake Morrison not out of genuine affection, but because he saw an opportunity, Santos argued. When he learned about Jake's inheritance, Jake became nothing more than a target. Defense attorney Chin attempted to humanize Tyler by focusing on his impoverished background and psychological pressure created by economic insecurity, while surrounded by wealthy peers. Tyler Brooks is not a monster, Chin told the jury. He's a young man whose desperation led him to make the worst decision of his life. The prosecution's case was built primarily on digital evidence documenting Tyler's research into murder methods, planning of the camping trip, and attempt to impersonate Jake after the killing. Cell phone location data placed Tyler at the murder scene, while internet search history revealed months of preparation, including research about inheritance law and body disposal. The most damaging evidence came from Tyler's digital devices, which contained detailed notes about Jake's financial situation, maps of Rocky Mountain National Park with a murder location marked, and shopping lists for equipment used in the killing. Tyler's attempts to delete this information had been unsuccessful. Tyler's decision not to testify disappointed his attorney, who had hoped Tyler's youth might generate jury sympathy. However, Tyler's continued insistence on innocence despite overwhelming evidence made testimony risky, as prosecutors would have confronted him with extensive documentation of his lies. The jury deliberated for 3 days before returning a guilty verdict on April 8, 2020, finding Tyler guilty of first-degree murder with aggravating circumstances. The verdict was unanimous, with jury members later stating that digital evidence of premeditation made the decision straightforward despite some sympathy for Tyler's background. Judge Patricia Williams sentenced Tyler to 16 years in prison, acknowledging his youth while emphasizing the calculated betrayal involved in the murder. Mr. Brooks exploited his victim's friendship in the most heinous way possible, she stated. While his age warrants consideration, the planning and deception involved demand significant consequences. Tyler's reaction was notably subdued, with his first public expression of remorse. "I know I can't bring Jake back. I'm sorry for what I did." Colorado State Penitentiary became Tyler Brooks's new reality at age 20, beginning what will be a 16-year journey through the state correctional system for the premeditated murder of his childhood best friend. Unlike many young offenders who struggle with the transition to adult prison, Tyler's intelligence and adaptability helped him navigate the complex social dynamics of incarceration while grappling with the psychological aftermath of his crime. Tyler's initial placement at CSP was complicated by his age, the nature of his crime, and concerns about his safety among older, more experienced inmates. Prison officials placed him in protective housing for his first 6 months while conducting psychological evaluations and determining the most appropriate long-term housing arrangement. This isolation provided Tyler with time to begin processing the reality of his situation and the enormity of what he had done. His first cellmate was Marcus Rodriguez, a 25-year-old serving time for armed robbery who took on an informal mentorship role with Tyler. Marcus had entered prison at 18 and understood the challenges facing young inmates in adult facilities. "First thing you gotta understand," Marcus told Tyler, "is that everybody in here made bad choices. But you killed your friend for money. That's going to follow you." The psychological evaluation process during Tyler's first year revealed a complex individual struggling with genuine remorse for his actions while maintaining some of the manipulative tendencies that had enabled him to plan and execute Jake's murder. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the prison's chief psychologist, noted that Tyler showed genuine emotional distress about Jake's death, but also demonstrated concerning levels of rationalization. Tyler's relationship with his family became strained but not completely severed during his early incarceration period. His mother, Jennifer, visited monthly despite the emotional and financial burden of the travel, often bringing news about his younger sister. These visits were emotionally difficult for both Tyler and his mother, as they forced both to confront how Tyler's actions had affected their entire family. Education became Tyler's primary focus during his second year of incarceration, as he recognized that improving his skills and knowledge would be essential for successful reentry. He completed his GED within 6 months and enrolled in college courses offered through the prison's partnership with Colorado Community College, focusing on business administration and accounting. Tyler's academic performance in prison was exceptional, reflecting both his natural intelligence and his determination to use his incarceration time productively. His professors noted his maturity, work ethic, and genuine engagement with the material. His academic success earned him respect from both staff and fellow inmates while providing structure to his daily routine. In his third year, Tyler participated in the prison's Victim Impact Program, meeting with families affected by violent crime to discuss the consequences of criminal behavior. These sessions were emotionally intense for Tyler, as they forced him to confront the human cost of his actions beyond his own family suffering. The program helped him develop more genuine understanding of accountability and remorse. Tyler's most significant breakthrough came during his fourth year, when he participated in a restorative justice circle that included a representative from Jake's family. Jake's aunt, Patricia Morrison, agreed to meet with Tyler as part of her own healing process. The conversation was difficult but meaningful for both participants, with Patricia expressing her family's pain, while Tyler accepted full responsibility. "Jake loved you like a brother," Patricia told Tyler during their meeting. "That's what makes this so hard to understand. How could you hurt someone who cared about you so much?" Tyler's response reflected genuine remorse. "I know I betrayed everything good about our friendship. I let greed and desperation turn me into someone I never thought I could be." By his fifth year, Tyler had become a mentor for younger inmates entering the prison system. His combination of intelligence, education, and genuine remorse made him effective at helping others avoid the mistakes that had led to his own incarceration. Prison staff recognized his positive influence and appointed him as a tutor in the educational programs. Tyler's work in the prison library became another significant aspect of his rehabilitation. He helped organize educational materials, assisted with research projects, and developed reading programs for inmates with limited literacy skills. This work provided him with a sense of purpose and allowed him to contribute positively to the prison community. Currently in his 7th year at CSP, Tyler serves as a peer counselor in the prison substance abuse program and continues his college coursework toward a bachelor's degree in social work. His goal is to work with at-risk youth upon his release, using his experience to prevent others from making similar choices. In January 2026, Tyler Brooks is 26 years old and serving his 7th year at Colorado State Penitentiary. His 16-year sentence means he will be eligible for parole consideration in 2035, but he has spent his incarceration time focused on education, rehabilitation, and developing genuine remorse for the murder of his best friend, Jake Morrison. Tyler's daily routine reflects a structured approach to personal development and prison programming. He rises at 6 a.m. for personal reflection and physical exercise, followed by his work assignment in the prison library. Afternoons are devoted to college coursework and tutoring other inmates, while evenings include participation in group therapy sessions and victim impact programs. Recent psychological evaluations show dramatic positive changes in Tyler's personality compared to his initial assessment upon entering prison. Dr. Martinez's latest report states, "Mr. Brooks has demonstrated genuine rehabilitation and has developed authentic empathy for others. He shows consistent remorse for his actions and has channeled his intelligence toward positive contributions within the prison community." Tyler's relationship with his family has gradually healed, though it remains complicated by the shame surrounding his crime. His mother continues to visit regularly and has become an advocate for prison education programs, speaking publicly about how educational opportunities can facilitate rehabilitation for young offenders. His younger sister, now 21, has maintained contact and plans to support his eventual reentry. Tyler's educational achievements during incarceration have been remarkable, reflecting both his intellectual capabilities and his commitment to personal growth. He holds an associate degree with honors and is completing his bachelor's degree in social work through distance learning programs. His academic work focuses on youth intervention and crime prevention. The victim impact work has become central to Tyler's rehabilitation. He regularly participates in educational programs where he speaks to at-risk youth about the consequences of criminal behavior, emphasizing how a pursuit of quick financial gain destroyed multiple lives. These presentations are emotionally difficult, but therapeutically valuable for his ongoing rehabilitation process. Looking toward his eventual release, Tyler has developed comprehensive reentry plans that focus on continuing his education and working with organizations that serve at-risk youth. He has established connections with several nonprofit organizations that work on violence prevention, and he has received preliminary commitments for employment assistance upon his release. Tyler's view of his crime has evolved significantly during his incarceration, moving from initial denial to genuine acceptance of responsibility and remorse. He now understands that his economic desperation never justified taking Jake's life, and is committed to spending his remaining years making amends through service to others. Prison officials consistently describe Tyler as one of their most successful rehabilitation cases, noting his positive influence on other inmates and his genuine transformation from a self-centered teenager into a mature adult committed to helping others avoid similar mistakes. Tyler Brooks' story represents one of the most tragic examples of how economic desperation and social pressure can drive intelligent young people to commit unthinkable acts of violence against those they claim to love. His murder of Jake Morrison for inheritance money destroyed multiple families and demonstrated the deadly intersection of poverty, opportunity, and moral failure in contemporary America. The tragedy that ended Jake's life was the inevitable result of Tyler's inability to accept his economic circumstances and his willingness to view his best friend as an obstacle rather than a person deserving of life and respect. Tyler's transformation from loyal friend to calculating killer illustrates how financial desperation can corrupt moral judgment and destroy relationships. Tyler's 7 years of incarceration have produced genuine rehabilitation and remorse, suggesting that even those who commit terrible crimes retain capacity for growth and redemption. His educational achievements and victim impact work demonstrate the potential for positive change within the correctional system. Tyler Brooks, now 26 years old, will spend the next 9 years in prison, continuing his rehabilitation work, carrying the permanent burden of having destroyed his best friend's life for money he never obtained.